already guessed that today's story is about a sunflower, one of my favourite flowers. And this story, it comes all the way from China. But because stories travel, this one has travelled all the way to Scotland, so I can share it with you. And because I'm telling it here in Scotland and not in China, I've changed it just a little bit. The story's called The Pot of Dirt. There once was a provost of a little town here in Scotland, and he was getting old, and he'd decided that he needed to retire. But he had a problem, because you see, in those days, it was his responsibility to choose who would be the next provost. And he couldn't decide. There was lots of people who wanted the job, and why wouldn't they? You got driven about in a big car. You got fancy lampposts put outside your house. You got invited out to dinner quite a lot. And you got to wear a big gold chain round your neck. So you see, that was his problem. Too many people wanted the job, and he just couldn't decide who to give it to. So he did something that he quite often did when he had a difficult problem to solve or a big decision to make. He went for a walk. He went for a walk in the local park, where he knew there might be someone who could help him. You see, the head gardener of the local park was a very wise man. And the provost quite often consulted him on difficult problems. And today was no exception. As he wandered round the park, he met the gardener and he shared his problem with him. And the gardener thought, and he said, you know what? We should have a competition, a growing competition, a seed growing competition. And together, the gardener and the provost hatched a cunning plan. So the next day, the provost made an announcement, and he called for everyone to meet in the town square, where he told them that if they wanted the job, they were to make a straight line round the square, and everyone would be given 2 seeds, 2 sunflower seeds. And they were to take these away, plant them in a pot, tend them, and bring them back in 3 months' time. And whoever had grown the biggest and the best sunflower would get the job. Now, amongst the crowd, there was a young laddie called Jack. And Jack, well, he really thought he would like to be the next provost. But when he heard about the competition, he was even more excited, because Jack, well, he was a bit of a gardener. He liked growing things in his wee garden at his house. He grew lots of vegetables and flowers and sunflowers. So he was really excited, and he lined up with everyone else. And when the provost gave him the 2 sunflower seeds, he held them tight, and he rushed home, and he went into the shed, and he got out a big pot, and he filled it with the finest potting compost, almost to the top. He left room so it could be watered properly. And then he made 2 little holes in the top, and he popped a seed into each. He covered them over, and then he watered them. And then he took them out into the garden to find the sunniest spot where it would get lots of sunshine. And he waited. And he waited. And every morning when he got up, he rushed out to have a look at his plant. And every evening before he went to bed, he went to look at his plant, watering it, moving it about the garden so it was in the sunniest spot. But he was really disappointed because it didn't seem to be growing. Surely, after a week or two, there should be a little shoot there, a little green shoot showing. But there wasn't. Nothing was happening. So after 2 weeks, he dug it up. He dug the seeds up. He tipped out the soil. He went and he got even better soil and he sieved it and worked it until it was as fine as anything. So there's no lumps in it. And then he planted the seeds again and he watered them again and he put the pot in the sunniest place in the garden. And again he waited and he waited and he waited. And every morning he got up and he went and he watered it and he watched it. And every evening before he went to bed, he watered it again. And he watched it. And he watched it and he watched it. And the 3 months were up and still nothing had happened in Jack's pot. And he was really disappointed. He said to his mother, "There's no point in me taking this to the provost because I won't win. I've just got a pot of dirt." But his mother said, "Well, Jack, you tried your best. Why don't you just take it anyway and go and see what's happening?" And so it was with tears rolling down his cheeks that Jack picked up the pot and carried it into the town square. And there were hundreds of people, and they all had pots, and every pot had a sunflower growing in. Some were quite small, some were as tall as people. But everybody had a sunflower, except for Jack. Well, when the provost arrived and he stepped out of his big car with his big gold chain round his neck, and he looked out over the crowd at all the sunflowers, and he began to walk about in amongst them, nodding here and nodding there, until he came to Jack right at the back. And he looked at this young lad with tears rolling down his face, and he looked at Jack's pot of dirt. And Jack said, "I tried my best, sir. I really did." The provost smiled, and he turned to the crowd, and as they parted, he said, This will be the next provost. Jack will be the next provost." Well, Jack was amazed. He said, "Why me? Everybody else has big sunflowers, and I've just got a pot of dirt. Why are you choosing me?" And the provost smiled and said, "Well, Jack, the seeds I gave out, they'd all been boiled. None of them should have grown. So I don't know where everybody else got their seeds from, but they're not my seeds. You're the only one here who's been honest. So I think you deserve to be the next provost." And you know what? So do I. Well, that's the end of my story for today. Thank you for listening. Bye for now.